So this is my second meeting with Kyaw Lwin, and it's 13th of July 2021. So welcome, KT.
Hi. Hi, Peter.
Hi. So at the end of our last, or the first interview that we did, we talked about the gun that saved Yangon or Rangoon. And I was wondering, how did you know how to use a Bofors gun?
I see. Yeah, that is a bit of a story because when World War II started, the uh, the British and later the Americans they needed a close range anti-aircraft gun, and they chose an Ehrlichen 20 millimeter gun, which is Swiss design. Uh, and they were using that, and they found that the Oerlikon caliber was a bit small, but it would damage the plane, but it couldn't bring it down. So they decided to go for the Swedish design called Bofors. This Bofors, by the way, is now still being used now all over in all the navies in the world. And the one that they used at that time was a single Bofors, and then all the most of the warships in the British Navy were upgraded. The one in mainly in UK and other theaters, but it came to Far East after D-Day only because they needed the guns for other ships. And then we at that time on our boat we had two Ehrlichens and a 3-pounder gun in front, and so they decided to remove the Ehrlichen as a pack, and then the 3-pounder in front and put two Bofors instead. So for that we had to go to Colombo for this refit. So during the refit, we were also asked to attend the short 1-week course for how to strip and then maintain and fire the gun, including firing at aircraft. So it was at that time that I met Lord Louis Mountbatten.
Goodness, how did that happen?
Well, that is it is also. It just shows how clever Mountbatten is with his people. We were only a flotilla of 3 boats, and we were about 200 people. I think there are 25 on board, and then the rest were ashore. So the 75 crew of the 3 boats were in Colombo, and he took time off to come and see us, to inspect us. So we were told that Lord Louis Mountbatten would come and inspect the ships, and there were 3 ships. I was on the second ship as the petty officer in charge of the crew. So after he inspected the first ship crew, he walked towards our ship, and then our commanding officer went and saluted him and greeted him, and then brought him along to where the crew were lined up. Then I saluted him, and then he looked at me and he said, "Boy," he said, "where do you come from?" So I said, "Rangoon, sir." Then he just tapped my shoulder and said, "Don't worry, boy." He said, "Don't worry, son." He said, "I'll get it back for you." At that time, I didn't think much of it, but later on, I said, "This the old fellow is very clever. We are doing all the fighting, and he takes all the credit." There was a preview of review of this Forgotten Allies recently in London about 2 years ago, and I was there. And then what I said to the producer, it was quoted. I said, "This old bugger," and then it in it as well. Everyone had a good laugh. Yeah.
So that's how you knew how to use the Bofors gun.
Yes, actually, we were uh, lucky that we managed to get the mobile version of the gun
Right,
used by the British Army.
right.
It mounted on 4 wheels. But the British were leaving, so we needed a gun for training in the barracks for the new guys. So we went and got this. This is a relic, actually. They had already written off, and we brought it back to our barracks, and then we used it for purely for training, and never not meant for action at all. It's only at that time that we had to do something. The currents were coming down the highway, and we needed to support the army. So we managed to get this get out with a volunteer crew of 14 guys. So you know the story.
Sure. So I think the next thing that's relevant, I don't know whether you pronounce it Dracula or Dracula. That was an operation you were involved in.
Oh yes, that Operation Dracula is actually the code name for the invasion of Rangoon. Well, when they planned reoccupation of Rangoon, General Slim was coming down from right up from north from Nichina, and then he would take Mandalay, and then he would take Rangoon in the next monsoon uh, because it was too much for him to do it all at once. But as it happened, he had a very he was very I think it was thanks to uh, General Slim, who was a very I would say strategist army commander.
He
He
was an
managed
Aussie,
to,
right? He was an Aussie?
yes. Well, I'm not sure. He could have been, yes,
Yeah.
but he he instead of taking Mandalay, which would take a long time because of the Japanese had fortified that place, he actually went past Mandalay and crossed the river at already at Mektila, down further south, and then had two columns, one from north, one from south, as to trap Mandalay, and the Japanese were really caught there. So he really expected something that it was not planned that he would occupy Manly so soon. So when that happened, he just going for Rangoon. Then then Mountbatten had to revise his plans for taking Rangoon. For Rangoon, they had planned that the fleet would bombard from the sea, but before that, they would soften it up with aerial bombings and so on. And then the fleet would uh, wait at the mouth of the river and then bombard Rangoon and then go in. Uh, but then when he had to advance his plans, he told us we got to get back to Akab from we were down in South India in a little place called Mantapam Naval Base, and all the fleet will gather off Chowkyu and then set off towards south and then towards Rangoon River mouth. That was our plan. So we had to really, it was like a 24-hour notice to get going. We were not prepared for a long sea voyage. We went up from uh, South India to Madras and then Vizagapatam and then right across the Bay of Bengal 3 days. And then at Chowkyu, we met this fleet. And there were so many ships, uh, just like Normandy landings. We steamed down towards Rangoon. And luckily, I don't know if you know the story, that the story is who got to Rangoon first. And the Army claimed they got there first, the Navy claimed they got there first, but actually it's the Air Force that got there first. You know, yeah, and it's an Aussie guy. You know, he was he was being sent to scout over Rangoon and report anything unusual. So when he flew past, there was a, insane jail,
Yeah.
the big jail in jail, which is now very, very notorious,
Correct.
the place for all the prisoners. That on the top of the J, it said, "Jets gone," in white paint, on the roof. And then the other thing it said was digit one. Digit one, I think only Aussies know, right? Do you know what
What?
is digit one?
What's the?
Digit. Digit one. DIGIT. Digit one.
No. Oh.
It means pull your finger out. That's all this slang. Yeah. They put that because otherwise the normally the Jeff's gone could have been a trap. See?
Right.
Yeah, when they said digit one, then of course the command knew about it that they have really gone.
Knew it had to be an Aussie that wrote it.
That's right. Well, yeah. I suppose in the Mountbatten staff they got some Aussies as well. So
Right.
anyway, the last minute they stopped. We had the uh, one Queen Elizabeth battleship, and then a few cruisers, destroyers, all outside, preparing to bombard Rangoon, and that would have flattened Rangoon altogether.
Yes.
You wouldn't see Rangoon the way we saw.
So it was saved.
Yeah, faith. And then this guy he actually landed in Mingledon through the pit holes, and he walked, I believe, all the way to the city and met all the people, came out and hugged him and all that. So he was actually the first guy that got to Rangoon. But
So you didn't
Commodore also claimed that they took Rangoon, but they only announced over the broadcast. They were nowhere near Rangoon. So that's what happened, really, with Dracula. Then of course there was the minesweepers ahead of us to sweep the channel because the mines have been dropped by our own side by from plane, and that also didn't work because they drop all over the place. From the plane, it's not easy to drop it precisely.
Of course.
So anyway, so they had the minesweeper in front, and then we got a signal from our senior officer, American Coastal Forces. He's after the admiral who is in charge of the invasion fleet. So this senior officer said to us, "Please lead us back to your hometown. Please take the honor of leading us back to the hometown." So we read the signals. So we were very proud. Oh boy, we're going to in front, But we had a senior officer, a Scottish guy who used to be, river master of the Manly steamers and Aravalli Flood Company. He said, "Oh no," he said, "Don't think that this is what they want us to be the scapegoat, go in front, so that if the animal we will hit first." So he said, "But we have to be clever too." So we spaced out about 1,000 yards between ships, and we steamed in fast. So in case the mine hit us, they would blow between the two ships. Anything we got in, but there was no mine. But then you should see that at that time, Rangoon Harbor, when everyone came in, all kinds of craft, landing crafts and gunboats and sloops and minesweepers. It's like Piccadilly Circus, all that, and all looking for a place to berth, and because there's no one to tell us where to go.
Sure.
We also, knowing the local, we went a little further up, and we went to the jetties that were used for inland boats. So we went and parked there, and after that, but let me say that I never thought that I would see my family right away. The reason was when I was in India, somebody came out of Burma and to to be interviewed by the 14th Army Intelligence. And he actually wrote a book called What Happened in Burma. And in that book, at the back, it was Who's Who in Burma. And in that, my dad's name was mentioned, Kyaw Thein Lwin, and then said Ambassador for Burma in Thailand. So I took it for granted that the whole family would have gone to Thailand. And so when we get back to Rangoon, I would not see them right away.
Right.
So I stayed on board. And then I let the others go ashore, including my skipper. And they went ashore, and I was keeping ship. And then a few hours later, my skipper came back with a group of friends. But those friends have been in Rangoon for 3-4 years, and without any grog, without any decent liquor. So we have plenty of rum anyway on board. And so he brought them back to have a drink with them. So they were drinking along, and then they mentioned the name a few times, U Chon Yen. So I said, excuse me, said, you mentioned U Chon Yen. Who are you talking about? I have a brother called U Chon Yen. So he said, oh, this is U Chon Yen, son of Kyaw Thein Lwin. That's my brother. Did you say that you saw him yesterday? He said, yes, he was around with us yesterday. So right away, I knew they were in Rangoon. So I told the skipper, you stay on board, and I'll go ashore now. So quickly, I got dressed and put a what you call it? We have a service revolver with a belt. We put that on, and then I loaded myself in my pocket with cigarettes and chewing gum and all that stuff to go for my brothers. And then I walked all the way to the school. Do you know the school in Myanmar School?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was about 15 walks from the jetty. So, but when I got there, it was totally deserted, and it was full of bullet holes and all that. And I was very depressed that to see in such a condition. So I came out of the gate and didn't know what to do. And I thought I would go towards the Shwedagon, and we have a zayat where my aunt is a nun, and then this zayat was actually built for her by my mom. I thought I'll go and see my aunt and find out. So there was no transportation, and then there was a what you call it, Mille, or with the Tonga, horse cart came along. So I stopped it, and I said, where are you all going? So we're going to Link Hotel. So I don't know where that is, but I said, I would like to take a lift. So yeah, I hop in, and I will go as far as that. But I said, I got no money to pay. But I said, I have this one. I took out that 50, the State Express 333 or 555.
Yeah,
50 tin, and give us. His eyes beamed. He said, "Oh, that's good enough." that's very precious for them. So that was my payment to them. So I rode with them, and they stopped at Link Hotel, which was actually now it's, of course, you got condos over there. It's past Shwedagon Dine, past the mausoleum. And as soon as I got down, somebody shouted my name, Kyaw Thein, Mount Kyaw Thein. And I looked, it was my sister-in-law, married to my eldest brother. She came running to me and hugged me. And because she recognized me. And my younger brother, who incidentally is now professor in America, he was about 10, I guess. So he saw me, and then he ran to the yacht, and he went into everybody. Oh, Kyaw Thein is back. Kyaw Thein is back. So I walked to the yacht, and all my family were all there. They didn't go to Bangkok.
Ah.
So that was my very, very happy reunion.
Lovely. Lovely.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Following that, I think probably something you may like, or people will be interested in, is you actually met Aung San.
Oh yes. Yeah. Let me just continue with that. My story about homecoming.
Sure.
But my when I left home, I was to go to Merchant Marine, and they were surprised that I was wearing the uniform of Navy. And then my young brother wanted to play with my gun, so I took out the bullets and gave him the gun, and he was clicking away, and and my mother right away knew that there's something odd about this. He said, "What are you doing with a gun to me?" So I said, "I'm now in the Navy." He said, "Oh, you must resign right away." He said, "I don't like all this Navy stuff. That you're not supposed to be in the Navy." So I said, "Mom," I said, I cannot uh, leave the Navy right away, but I've just joined up. But our Navy is quite safe. I said, we do transportation, and then actually we are supposed to go to operation next day. But I told her that I'm going to the down the river to the pilot station to pick up some VIP. So that's how I told her, and then I wanted to get back to the ship before the curfew. So they found me another horse cart, and then my mother came. I said I got no money, so she said, "Oh, here's some money." She gave me a bag full of Japanese notes. Oh, so I said, "I don't need all that." No, you're going to need all that. That's not enough. At that time, the Japanese note was just almost useless. So I used that money to get back to the ship. And then next day we sailed. We went up. You are familiar with Insane,
Yes.
Line River.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You got to go past Insane to get to a place called Thunderbin on the left side. And the Thunderbin, there's a river which goes towards Irrawaddy and joined up in Irrawaddy. That is a short route during the rainy season. In the dry season, the entrance from Irrawaddy is blocked, so it is not used by regular steamer. They go use the 20. So anyway, we went. We were told that the Japanese were coming from Irrawaddy through this little hole in the wall in Nyangdong towards east and come out of Thunderbin and then go across that up to the Piku Yomas, and then they would try and join their base in Moulmein, which is their main base at that time. We went. Oh, we were sent in turns. There were three flotillas. One was South African flotilla, one was the Royal Navy flotilla, and we were the third. Yeah, well, we took turns every day. We changed the turns. So the first day, the South Africans met the Japanese, came out in the landing crafts, and then they had a what you call it, you might call it a dogfight. Where they sank some of the Japanese boats, but also damaged their own. And the next day, the British, no, sorry, next day was our turn. We went up, and then we also met them, and then we managed to sink all the boats, but we didn't. There were no casualties on our side, luckily, only by luck. There was a one bullet that went through the hull, and then we said we were lucky about that. Then we found that later on that that bullet went to the wireless set at the radio cabin, and then our radio uh, transmitter was totally out of order. We only found it out later on, and then the third day was the British fleet, British flotilla went up there, and then they also did met these boats again, and that was the end of the fighting with Japanese. But before that, we went to the Delta. We chasing them in the Delta towards Pathain and towards Myanmar, and then the place where there was a lot of casualties during Nagas, a lot of down south when you had Nagas storm and the tidal wave, they swept away everywhere.
Yes.
All those areas we had been to at that time. And the Japanese went down that way as well. They went out to sea from there. They went across to Maine. And so that actually was our last action before independence.
When would that have been? 1940?
That was May 1945.
Right.
And then after that, of course, the British Navy packed up. They left all the boats with us, and they went home. Actually, they were planning to go down to Malaysia and Singapore for the next operation. That operation never took place. The Japanese surrendered. So after that, they thought they had assigned the control of Burma coast to our Navy because they were going home. They left all their boats with us, and there was a few. The boats were mostly made in the UK, and the wood, as you know, is pine wood, deer wood. It's not so good for tropics,
No,
and all getting rotten. And so we had to decommission all these boats, as well as the engines were very, very aeroplane type engines for fast speed, but consume a lot of gasoline. So during wartime, peacetime, of course, it would be uneconomical. So we had to decommission the boats, but we removed all the guns ashore. Luckily, we had these guns ashore, which later on, when we had insurgency in Burma, we were needing a lot of craft, but we didn't have the hulls. So we went to take over or commandeer the craft that is owned by the Irrawaddy Flotilla Company. They were also being nationalized. So we took the double deckers that they had, put some guns on them. We put some our own sailors, made them do Marines, and they were very, very useful to keep the Delta under control at that time. So that's what happened after the war, but it was after independence. And the problem was, when we got independence, the communists were not happy with that, with the terms that Aung San accepted. So they openly declared that they didn't agree. So were the Karens. They said they were promised a separate state by the British, and British let them down. So they came back with Aung San, but they never signed the agreement. Then later on, during the first few months, the communists went underground to fight the government. And then at that time, Koreans had not gone underground. They were just, they took over some of the towns in the Delta and the 20 Canal, but they were not against the government. But the communists were. We were actually, at that time, our base was at St. Paul's School, which is opposite the Secretariat where Aung San was assassinated. You know that building?
I know exactly where that you're talking about, yeah.
Right. You know St. Paul's School.
Yes,
and
I do.
That was our barracks, for the Navy barracks, you see. And then we had the base there. Then there were some communist elements in the Navy itself. And they had planned that at that time, nobody could go home. Everyone was confined to barracks. And they planned to take over 3 boats which were alongside now you call Thameview Street. You know, the container berth. Yeah, you know, the Strand.
The Strand, yeah.
Thameview Street, right down south. Just not far from Mayo Marine Club. You know the Mayo Marine Club?
And was the hotel there then?
Yeah.
Strand Hotel?
You know the post office?
Yes.
Yeah, General Post Office.
Yes.
Yeah, if you look further south, that is the wharf, right? That's
Yep.
the container wharf.
So it was around there.
On Rangoon River.
Right.
Yeah, just at the end of that was our base at that time. We were alongside there, 3 boats. Well, they had planned that they would raid. First of all, they would raid the armory in the barracks at night. But they had also made sure the sentries were at 1 o'clock. The sentries were part of their gang. They swapped duty with the other guys, where nobody likes to be on duty at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. So their own people were sentries. So they overpowered the duty officer, and then the armory was open. They took out all the arms loaded on the truck, all the small arms, and then they drove down to where we were. And there again, we had a duty officer, the sentry there, again, their own guy, so took over from him, and then he cut off the telephone and tied up this duty officer, and he opened the gate, and they came just in. They came in, and then they set fire to a minesweeper we had. So everyone was rushing to try and help with the firefighting. At that time, they hijacked us. I had a gunboat. It was actually converted from a river tug with a boat mounted at the back. That gunboat, there were 2 boats, sister boats, B2 and B4. They were equipped with explosives, and we just finished the gun trial, and we were supposed to go next day up to do the operations. So Prom K had been taken by communists. We were supposed to go and support the army to retake Prom. So that night, I slept on board, and so did also my friend. We got on board and we slept there, but we didn't realize. We sleep on the bridge, which is next is the cabin right on top. So at about 1:30 or so, they rushed down. And this guy, who was actually my own seaman, was planted by them. He right away he rushed to my room and grabbed my revolver, which I always kept under my pillow when I was sleeping. He knew that, so he grabbed that revolver and pointed at me, and he said, "Your ship has been taken over by the Free Independence, the Communist Party, Navy, or something like that." So I said, "Hey, don't talk all this nonsense." I said, "You can be hung for a mutiny." No, he says, "You shut up." He said, "I'll be shot." So anyway, I kept quiet, and they took me out to the bridge.
Sorry, KT,
at night.
KT, yeah. It's August 1949. Is that when we're talking around that time?
That's right. And it was 1948, August 48. Before the gun. The current had not revolted yet.
Sorry, just so before. You out to the bridge.
Yeah. So then anyway, they managed to overpower all 3 boats, and we were set off up to Pigu River. Pigu River, where the base was not far from Pigu, and so they wanted to get to their base. Luckily for us, they lost some time finding the route, and I misled them as well. So when it was dawn, they realized that they'll be caught in the river, and they knew that the Air Force will come in and shoot them up. So they went in the creek, Kyaw Creek, called Kyaw Creek, is past Tanyan, in the creek. But that creek actually was occupied by PBOs. It was by the They were also another insurgent faction, but they were not as bad as the communists. So they got into that creek. And then later on, sorry, later on, um, we we were going up that creek, and war office, of course, right away sent out alarm and said they have to sink these boats uh, because we have boats on board, and we might go and fire at Mayu. So they told the Air Force to do something, and the deputy chief of the Air Force, Tommy Clift. By the way, Tommy Clift eventually came to Australia. He's passed away now. Tommy Clift said, "All right, I'll take the Spitfire and then I'll go and sink them." So he did two sorties. One sortie he did from the from the from the from the back, but my gun crew were forced to shoot at that plane with the revolver pointing at them. So they shot away, but luckily the aim was not good and missed it. But then Tom and Cliff realized that next sortie they might hit him. So he turned around and he came back from the front, and then he tried to strafe us from the front. I realized what he was going to do, so I shouted to everybody, "Jump in the water! Jump in the water!" And my crew, the loyal crew, jumped in the water and hung on to the gunwale. But the insurgents, they didn't believe. They went jump in the hole in front, and they were strafed, and they lost a few people. Anyway, the boat itself was badly holed and beached because it was holed and making water. So it got beached, and after it got beached, the insurgents got a launch alongside, loaded all the guns, the small guns, and they went away, left us, by ourselves. So we patched up the boat somehow, and then when the tide rose, she floated. We were going back slowly towards Rangoon. Then the insurgents came and saw us going steaming, so they again took over, and then took us up to their final base. That's where we got finally there. And there they took us off the ship, and we were put in the jail in Kayan. You know where Kayan is, right? Yeah, it's about 2 hours from Tinyin,
Right.
towards east. Yeah. By the way, I did visit that what you call it, the lockup a few years ago, but I couldn't find it because it has been surrounded by a bigger police station. And then I saw the building. It was what 1905. So
Good.
that was our that was our lockup, and I took some pictures. It's my book. But now you should know how we got out.
How did you get out?
Well, that is a bit of a story. Uh, when we were been there about 2 or 3 weeks, I think the Navy sent the double deckers with the Marines to try and rescue us or what. They came up. So the insurgents who were using this jail or lockup as their base, they told us one day that, look, they said, your navy is coming up. We're going to fight them, but we don't want to fight them in the town because the town get hurt. So we're going to go down south and fight them. But you will be locked up, and the jailer is in charge. So he will make sure that you don't go out anywhere. So you'll be locked up under him until we come back. So they went, and then we didn't know how the heck to get around the jailer. The jailer is a professional guy. So anyway, I said, well, I should soften him up first of all to try and get him on our side. So I gave him my white tunic with brass buttons and all that, So he was happy with that tunic. And then later on, I said, oh, so we're very thirsty. We like our drink. We haven't had drink for a long time. Would you get some drink for us, country liquor? So I had some impressed money with me. I gave him some money to buy. Then the other officer who was with me on the other boat, and another petty officer, Anglo-Burmese. These two guys are well known in the Navy for their drinks. They can outdrink anybody. So I told these two, I said, look, I said, Dicky, and then I thought, other guy, I think Hottinger. I said, look, I said, when the jailer comes back, try and get them drunk. You don't get drunk. So if you can get him drunk, I will get the keys from his waist. See? So we won him. And then as far as jailers, no, I'm on duty, I don't drink, and so on. Said, no, take a sip. So from a sip, we went to a mug, and then finally we floored him. And then we just took out the keys from a bunch of keys from his waist, from Longi. And he opened the keys, and we all got out. There were, I think, 14 or 15 of us. Yeah. And then we escaped. But when we got near Rangoon, we saw the Mayu. And we were in a sampan on our own.
All right.
We saw the Mayu. Mayu was anchored guarding Rangoon from. So Mayu had passed orders: do not come within 1,000 yards any craft, or we will shoot. So when we got close to Mayu, and they shouted over the loudhailer, "Don't come closer." So we tried to wave out, and they said, "Don't come closer, we're going to shoot you." And how the heck are we going to tell them how who we are? Well, the semaphore, right?
Yes.
Were you a Boy Scout?
I was a Boy Scout. Yes.
Yeah. Did you learn semaphore? You
No,
use arms to alphabets A, B, C, D, and so on. You spell out with arms. Yeah. Anyway, semaphore. When I was a cadet, we had to learn semaphore as well as Morse. The Morse code, we either use the blinker or use the wireless. So that's always used. But semaphore, no one ever used. It's over. Well, you're taught how to send messages and receive. So I went to the front of the sampan, and I started calling with the semaphore with my hand waving out. And then they thought I was playing the fool. So then I just kept on repeating. Then somebody said, "Oh, he's trying to signal." And then they started reading, and I read, "I am Lieutenant Kyaw Thein Lwin." Then they said, "Come close." Otherwise we'd have been shot by our own people. So semaphore was very useful for me at that time.
Lucky you remembered.